Even in the darkest places, some refuse to follow orders. What if, within the infernal legions, there exists a figure so profoundly independent, so utterly defiant, that even the Prince of Darkness himself could not command his loyalty? Tonight, we descend into the abyssal depths to uncover the chilling legend of Lucifuge Rofocale, the demon who refused to serve not just humanity, not just heaven, but even Lucifer himself. Prepare to challenge your understanding of power, allegiance, and the very nature of evil. This isn't merely a tale of demonic power, it's a profound exploration of absolute autonomy, even in damnation. We will navigate the forbidden texts, piece together fragmented lore, and peer into the very heart of defiance to reveal a truth that reshapes the infernal landscape. Before we delve into the formidable essence of Lucifuge, we must first confront the complex and often misunderstood idea of demonic hierarchy itself. For centuries, our minds have been shaped by narratives of a unified hell, a monolithic entity, a vast kingdom where Lucifer reigns supreme, his will undisputed, his word absolute law for every tormented soul and every demonic minion. We envision legions marching in lockstep, a perfectly ordered tyranny. But what if this perception is a profound oversimplification, a comforting narrative designed to obscure a far more chaotic and fractured reality within the very pits of the abyss? The very existence of a being who openly defies the ultimate authority of hell's sovereign challenges this neat order, suggesting a level of independent will that is not only terrifying in its implications but fundamentally redefines the scope of infernal power. This isn't merely about insubordination or the occasional act of defiance from a lesser demon. Such acts, while noted, are typically punished swiftly and brutally, serving as stark warnings to others. No, this speaks to a fundamental, ingrained principle of refusal so deeply woven into the very fabric of Lucifuge's being that it defines his entire identity. What kind of power, what degree of self-possession, what unyielding inner resolve would allow a demon to stand completely apart, unbound by the very chains that shackle the damned, and seemingly impervious even to the formidable will of the arch-rebel himself, Lucifer? Such an entity compels us, the observers, to deeply reconsider the very nature of freedom and servitude, of power and submission, even within the bleakest, most desolate realms of existence. The very notion of a demon who refuses all masters, who bows to no one, including its own kind and its supposed infernal sovereign, hints at a chilling and singular form of ultimate autonomy, a will so hardened, so utterly unyielding, that it cannot be bent, commanded, or coerced by any force, be it divine light or infernal darkness. It suggests a being whose very essence is a rejection of all external control, a self-contained vortex of defiant energy in a universe where everything else seems to fall into line. If the act of absolute refusal defines him, if his essence is pure defiance, then where did this ultimate insubordinate, this shadowy lord who bends knee to no one, truly come from? How does a being come to embody such a unique and terrifying form of independence? Deep within the rarest, most guarded, leather-bound grimoires of high magic, the forbidden texts that are often described in hushed tones by generations of occultists and secret scholars, rarely seen by human eyes, appears the name Lucifuge Rofocale. This is not a demon born in the conventional sense, not one created from the simple angelic fall due to pride, nor one conjured from the depths of human corruption or specific sins. His very etymology, the meaning embedded in his name, is profoundly telling and hints at his unique nature. Lucifuge means he who flees light, suggesting an innate aversion to divine illumination, a preference for the deepest shadows. And Rofocale, often interpreted as a complex anagram of focal or focal fire, hints at an inner, self-contained, and powerfully dark energy source. This isn't external power granted or taken, it's an inherent core of immense, independent might. Unlike the vast majority of demons whose power derives from specific human sins or earthly temptations, or who serve as manifestations of specific evils, Lucifuge is presented as the embodiment of absolute rejection, a primal spirit of negation and fierce independence that existed even before the Great Cosmic Rebellion, perhaps even before creation itself took its definitive form. His true origins, as hinted in these fragmented, often contradictory records, are shrouded not in the familiar realms of fallen angels, cast down from grace, or corrupt spirits who chose evil. Instead, they delve into pre-creation myths, hinting at a being that existed in the raw, unformed void, the primordial chaos that preceded the organization of the cosmos. Some lore suggests he was a primordial cosmic force, a chaotic entity alongside, or perhaps even prior to, the initial sparks of divine creation and Lucifer's own dramatic ascent and subsequent fall from heaven. Lucifuge, it is profoundly stated, never bowed to God, but crucially, he also never swore fealty to Lucifer. He represents the very principle of non-alignment, a true chaotic neutral in a universe often perceived in terms of absolute good versus absolute evil. His symbolic meaning transcends simple malevolence. He is the ultimate defiance of any imposed order, a living, breathing embodiment of the chilling axiom, I serve no one. He commands the distribution of wealth and treasure, holding dominion over gold, silver, and precious stones, but not because he hoards it for Lucifer or as part of some grand infernal scheme for world domination. Instead, his control over earthly riches is presented as a stark, undeniable demonstration of his own independent power. His singular ability to manipulate and control vast material resources completely on his own terms, without taking orders from any entity, be it divine above or infernal below. This chilling autonomy makes him exceptionally dangerous and unpredictable, for he cannot be bought or swayed by the typical demonic contracts or promises of power that ensnare lesser beings. His motivation is not loyalty, but self-assertion. Imagine a force, even within hell itself, a shadowy lord who wields immense power over earthly riches, yet uses it not to spread Lucifer's influence or further any infernal agenda, but purely to assert its own undeniable, singular sovereignty. Lucifuge operates with a chillingly pragmatic efficiency, granting favors not out of any sense of allegiance or even malicious pleasure, but out of a purely transactional understanding of power dynamics. He might grant immense material wealth to a desperate summoner, but often at the cost of that supplicant's entire spirit of ambition, or their joy in life, leaving them with untold riches but no drive to use them, no passion, no inner light. A hollow victory designed not to corrupt for Lucifer, but to demonstrate Lucifuge's ultimate, unique control over the very concept of desire and motivation itself. This singular, unyielding will to remain masterless, to bow to no one, sets him apart. He is an anomaly in the infernal hierarchy, a being whose very existence challenges the absolute authority of hell's reigning prince, embodying a terrifying, self-sufficient solitude that is both compelling and utterly dreadful. His is the chilling freedom of absolute isolation. If his nature is so profoundly defined by this absolute refusal, then how does such a singular will interact with, or perhaps more accurately, avoid interaction with, the rigid, oppressive structures of the infernal realm that bind all others? How does one survive, let alone thrive, when one stands apart from all established powers? Unlike the myriad legions of hell, each bound by a specific duty, a particular dominion, or a designated role within Lucifer's vast, hierarchical command structure, Lucifuge Rofocale holds no traditional place within the demonic armies. He is not a general leading a phalanx of despairing souls, nor a duke overseeing a specific form of torture in a designated circle of damnation. Instead, he operates as a sovereign entity within hell, a dark lord unto himself, an independent power, accounts from the most forbidden grimoires, most notably the infamous Grand Grimoire, a text whose very existence is debated by some as too dangerous, suggest he wields authority over the distribution of terrestrial wealth and treasures, holding sway over gold, silver, and all manner of precious stones found hidden within the earth. But crucially, as mentioned before, he does so not as a subordinate acting on Lucifer's behalf, but as an independent power broker, his motivations his own, his authority derived from himself alone. Historical anecdotes, though extremely rare and often veiled in cryptic, warning-laden language due to the sheer danger of even contemplating his existence, tell of early occultists and desperate sorcerers who dared to attempt to summon Lucifuge. These rituals were said to be fraught with unprecedented danger, not primarily because of his inherent malice, which is a given for a demonic entity, but because of his utter lack of allegiance, he could not be commanded or coerced through the usual demonic pacts, through threats of divine retribution, or through the invoking of Lucifer's name. His response to a summoner was famously unpredictable, often demanding an impossible price that transcended simple human suffering, or, chillingly, simply refusing to appear at all if the terms did not align with his own inscrutable, unfathomable will. There are whispers, preserved in the margin notes of burnt manuscripts, of powerful conjurers driven not by fear of him, but by sheer madness, unable to comprehend the unbending force of his independent mind. They encountered a being that operated purely on its own terms, devoid of any higher or lower loyalty, an absolute singularity in a universe of connections. His presence was described as less about overwhelming, terrifying power and more about an unnerving void of conventional motivation, an alien understanding of existence. Early demonic scholars and the clandestine writers of grimoires understood this unique characteristic. They noted that Lucifer represented the pinnacle of rebellion against God, a grand, cosmic defiance against a divine sovereign. But Lucifuge, they argued, embodied a different, perhaps even purer, form of rebellion against all authority, even that of rebellion itself. This unique stance makes him a far more complex and ultimately dangerous entity than a simple antagonist in the celestial drama. He is the ultimate rogue, the dark embodiment of pure, unadulterated free will, even if that will is devoted to an inscrutable and solitary purpose within the confines of eternal darkness. To successfully summon him, therefore, was not to face wrath or temptation in the usual sense, but to confront an indifferent, terrifying freedom that mirrored, in its own bleak way, the very divine prerogative of self-existence, a terrifying reflection of ultimate, unburdened power. But can true rebellion, this absolute, unyielding autonomy, ever truly be independent? Or does the very act of defining oneself against a greater power, against any hierarchy at all, inherently tie one to it in a perverse, inescapable bond? This question leads us to Lucifuge Rofocale's chilling paradox. Lucifuge Rofocale, in his absolute refusal to serve anyone or anything, presents a profound and disturbing paradox. While he unequivocally exists outside Lucifer's direct command, and outside the conventional structure of heaven and hell, his very identity, his core being, is paradoxically forged in a constant state of opposition to all hierarchy, to all imposed order. This perpetual state of defiance, this inherent non-alignment, this fundamental refusal to submit, ironically grants him a unique and potent form of power in our modern age. In a world increasingly marked by a pervasive distrust of traditional authority, a deep cynicism about grand narratives that once offered universal meaning, and an almost feverish glorification of radical individualism to the point of isolation, Lucifuge's core essence resonates with a disturbing and undeniable familiarity. Consider the pervasive anti-establishment sentiment that courses through contemporary society, often leading to deep societal fissures. Think about the widespread distrust of institutions, be they political, scientific, or religious, often without clear, verifiable reasons beyond a general skepticism. Reflect on the glorification of radical independence in our culture, where the lone wolf, the self-made individual who cuts all ties, is often hailed as the ultimate success. While not demonic possession in the traditional sense, these widespread attitudes and societal currents reflect a collective embrace of the very principle Lucifuge embodies, the absolute rejection of all masters, all rules, all allegiances. This is not just a philosophy, it's a spiritual contagion that fosters ultimate self-reliance, even at the cost of connection. Furthermore, consider the widespread, almost insatiable desire for quick wealth, for shortcuts to power and influence, often without the perceived shackles of traditional hard work, ethical compromise, or long-term loyalty. This aligns eerily with Lucifuge's supposed dominion over earthly treasures, a power he wields as a means to an end, detached from any moral ledger or infernal agenda. Lucifuge Rofocale doesn't tempt you to join a hierarchy of evil, to become a loyal servant to the infernal cause, which is the typical demonic lure. Instead, his temptation is far more subtle and perhaps, for the modern psyche, more appealing. He tempts you to become a law unto yourself, an isolated but profoundly powerful entity, utterly unburdened by loyalty or consequence. He promises autonomy, but delivers isolation. Think about prominent narratives in our media. The self-made billionaires who achieve unparalleled success by ruthlessly disregarding conventional ethics, societal norms, and the well-being of others. Or consider the alluring, yet often terrifying, nature of anonymous power in the digital age, where influence can be wielded from the shadows, without personal accountability, without any ties that bind. These, in a profound sense, are modern manifestations of Lucifuge's dark appeal. He offers a path to material power, to freedom from constraint, but it's a freedom divorced from allegiance, a terrifying form of independence that can lead to ultimate spiritual isolation. Just as the demon Paimon, in some lore, might represent twisted, corrupt knowledge that leads to ruin, Lucifuge represents corrupted autonomy, the seductive but ultimately hollow belief that absolute freedom from all masters is the ultimate good, even if it leads to a solitary existence devoid of true connection, shared purpose, or genuine meaning. The deeper, more sobering truth that Lucifuge's existence illuminates is that true freedom isn't merely the absence of all authority or constraint. Instead, it is the profound and responsible choice of which authority, be it divine, moral, ethical, or self-imposed, to serve. Lucifuge exists as a chilling reminder of what happens when that fundamental choice is a universal, unyielding no. So, what have we truly uncovered about Lucifuge Rofocale, this enigma of the abyss, this singular figure in demonic lore? We've explored him not as a mere minion, a foot soldier in the infernal armies, but as a unique, singular force, the embodiment of absolute refusal, a master of his own destiny even within the seemingly inescapable confines of hell. His true power, we've learned, lies not in commanding legions or causing widespread destruction, but in his unbending, unyielding will, his absolute refusal to serve even the greatest of infernal lords, and his peculiar, yet potent, dominion over the very earthly treasures that often fuel human ambition and corruption. In our complex, fractured, and often bewildering modern world, this ancient principle of radical independence and absolute autonomy manifests not through direct demonic summoning, but through pervasive distrust, cynical individualism, and the relentless pursuit of power divorced from any sense of loyalty or responsibility. Lucifuge challenges us to examine the true cost of absolute freedom, to question whether a life unburdened by any allegiance, any higher purpose, ultimately leads to true power, or to a profound, self-imposed and eternal isolation. His chilling story forces us to look inward and ask a fundamental question. Is ultimate freedom truly found in serving no one, or in choosing wisely whom and what you serve? The answer, perhaps, defines not just our path, but our very soul. If this journey into the profound depths of demonic autonomy and the challenging nature of true freedom has intrigued you, if it has caused you to rethink the nature of power, hierarchy, and loyalty in ways you hadn't considered, then we invite you to join our growing community of intellectual explorers and spiritual seekers. Cast a light on these forbidden narratives by liking this video, signifying your engagement with these complex truths and helping them reach more minds. Subscribe to our channel to ensure you don't miss our future explorations into the deepest mysteries, the most profound revelations, and the secrets history prefers to keep hidden. And most importantly, tell us in the comments below, do you believe Lucifuge Rofocale's absolute refusal to serve represents the ultimate form of demonic power, a terrifying autonomy, or a chilling path to eternal, solitary damnation? Your thoughts, your insights, and your willingness to question and explore are the true keys to unlocking even deeper revelations within these ancient shadows. Thank you for joining us on this vital quest for understanding.